What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Circles and Squares News Report for Monday, January 31st, 2022. I almost said 2021 there. Oh, so close.
I said 2020 the other day, so you're not doing as bad as
you know
I am.
what? Like we always say, time's kind of stopped.
Right?
I'm James.
Time is a social construct.
It is. I'm James, and that's Katie, and that, of course, makes this Circles and Squares, the PlayStation podcast. This is our news show, of course, where every other week we come and talk about the latest PlayStation news and other gaming news as well. So the sister show, you might call it, to our main show, the Circles and Squares podcast. But yeah, Kate, we got a busy news day today, so maybe usually we chat for a bit, but let's just get straight into it with the PlayStation news, as we like to start the show off with for the month. Or the last couple of weeks, I should say. And we're starting off with PlayStation Plus for the upcoming month, which is February, of course. And the games we have for this month coming up: UFC 4 from EA Sports. We have Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep, and Planet Coaster, the console edition. So PlayStation Plus I feel like it's been a few really strong months, and I don't know about you, but this one to me is definitely like a little lacking in terms of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. The only one I have any kind of interest in is Tiny Tina's. But we already got that on Epic recently, which I know is not a fair comparison, or like thing to bring up in terms of like the strength of the month. But for me anyway, it's like, well, I kind of already have this. And it's just kind of like a bite-sized package. So yeah, the other ones are not doing anything for me. UFC is, maybe it's a good time. Planet Coaster, I've always been a staunch Animal Zoo Tycoon over the Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, same.
And
there's no debate
on that.
There's really no debate.
Thank you. Yeah, when you're reaching in your cereal box and you're pulling out Roller Coaster Tycoon instead of Zoo Tycoon, like
it just ain't it. It just ain't it.
Back from that, right?
It just ain't it.
You're going to school and your day is ruined.
Yeah. I just want to point something out here. Like, usually I think we do a good job of saying, like, this isn't necessarily a bad month of PS Plus. It's just not really stuff that speaks to our tastes. But I do think like this is like one of the times I think I am going to complain a little bit, just because the Tiny Tina thing just is it's a little bit of a, first of all, like, hey, remember this character because the new game is coming out in a couple of months' time, which is fine. Like, that's just advertising. But the thing is like, this has already been given away on PS Plus before as part of the Handsome Collection. And not to mention that, but just even like last month, I think at the end of the year, there was a sale and this whole DLC, which is for like Borderlands 2, which isn't really that new. This game was on sale for like $10. So it seems like a little bit of like a, let's just shove this in there kind of offering. And then when you combine that with the main game, like the headliner being UFC, which is like, the fifth most popular EA Sports franchise, I just kind of feel like it's one of those like, who is this really speaking to kind of months.
I think, to be fair, Planet Coaster is really popular. I think a lot of people are like, as much as I will always make the joke about Animal, or like, I don't want to say Animal Crossing, it's Zoo Tycoon.
Yeah.
Being the superior tycoon game. I think Planet Coaster is actually like an exciting game. So I think that might be the headliner.
Fair. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I just feel like you hope for two kind of strong ones, but then again, lots of people like UFC as well. Who knows? What are you going to be playing, Kate? That's the choice. We got to make a choice.
You know what? I think I feel like maybe if I have time, I'll check out a match or two of UFC, just because we had so much fun with that wrestling game that like maybe I can try to recreate some of those.
That's what I was going to say. Kate, we got to get online and we're going to fight each other. We're going to have a couple matches and we'll just see who can win.
We'll have a UFC fight. If it's anything like boxing, I'm going to be amazing at it, because for some reason there's something about boxing games I'm just like weirdly in tune with.
You're gonna just be the kind of the stand-up fighter, and then if we go to the ground, if I get you down in like the grabs and stuff, then maybe I can take over. But
that's right. I'm gonna be Little Mac, and if you get me in the air or on the ground, I'm done for. But in my fighting stance, it's absolute destruction. Tiny Tina is something I kind of just wanted to play regardless. With friends, so.
To be fair, I actually have played through that DLC before. It's from 2013, so a friend of mine and we went through the whole like Borderlands 2, did the DLC. It is a fun DLC. Like it very much does feel like a D&D campaign. Like Tina is a fun host. Like the narration is pretty cool. Some of the like she's obviously the DM, right? And so she puts you in some like insane like outrageous Borderlands style scenarios. So it's fun. If you've never played it before, I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Well, I've always wanted to because I like D&D. I actually just was working earlier today with a couple people. We're planning a new campaign, and so I'm really excited about D&D specifically right now. And I've played through some of Borderlands with 2 different groups, and I agreed to it because I wanted to get to Tiny Tina. That's the part that excited me, and we didn't make it either time. So I'm giving up on the rest of Borderlands. I'm just gonna play Tiny Tina, and I can't let myself be held down by all their car mechanics. So
Exactly. All
yeah.
right. Well, we'll check in with those games on the next episode of our show. And for now, let's move on to our second story of the month, which is that a report. I keep saying month, Kate. It's for the week. It's
Munch.
not the munch. It's not the month. It's the week. Look,
It's
I've
not
had
the
no
munch.
sleep. I've had no sleep. Okay.
Have you had
Um,
breakfast or lunch at least?
I had dinner only. I had dinner only.
Dinner only.
It's
All
been a
right.
weird day for me,
That saves you a few dollars for sure.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh man, okay. Yeah, so there's a report out now. This is from Eurogamer coming out that's saying that London Studio is reporting they're working on a new PS5 online game. Of course, London Studio's the largely a VR studio for PlayStation. In the most recent history, they made Blood and Truth and was their kind of big PSVR title that people really liked. And so this is an interesting report. They're making a new online game for PS5. It still could be VR, I guess. They didn't specify one way or another. That kind of ties into one of my predictions I made on our predictions episode too, that there was going to be something about VR. I said, right? Some exclusive VR thing. So you never know. But yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on this? What it might be? What you're hoping for? Anything like that?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the safe call is it's going to be like a VR thing, right? Like you got to think that takes some really like specific knowledge to develop for VR. And when you have a studio that's been doing it well, it just makes sense that they would continue to produce VR games. But there's a lot of people responding to Twitter thread being like, maybe they're just joking because of, spoilers, upcoming big news, but they're like, oh, maybe, we'll get like a new shooter that's just for PlayStation for some competition. But I don't know. There's not a lot to go on. VR seems like a safe call.
Yeah, especially I mean, yeah, if you're thinking about like, okay, we're going ahead, we're going to talk about the Activision Blizzard stuff and like what's PlayStation going to do if they lose Call of Duty. I feel like they're probably going to do something to respond in the future, but I don't think London Studio all of a sudden pivoting from VR to like a Call of Duty competitor would exactly be the right alignment of like what that studio might be good for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I hope it's something VR though. I really hope with PSVR 2 coming out and, kind of PlayStation putting that's one thing they do have that Xbox doesn't. Xbox buying all these big studios. PlayStation still does have the only console-based VR system. So kind of, assigning some of their first-party studios to make good games, like first-party games with some of their cool franchises would be something that would make sense.
Okay.
That's what I would bet on.
I'm going to take a wild guess because I'm looking at this here and they made Blood and Truth, but before that they worked on SingStar, which is one of those like music games. So I'm going to put down a heavy bet here and I'm going to say, or at least I'm going to hope that they're working on some kind of like PlayStation Greatest Hits karaoke. And you can be online and you show up and you're like, I'm going to be Kratos and do some like deep Norse throat singing. And then,
oh my God.
And then like, okay, now Astrobot's got to get on there and Nathan Drake would show up with some like Hotel California or something. It'd be awesome.
He'd be like climbing on the outside of the Hotel California.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Yeah, we'll see if that happens. Something tells me it's not quite going to be the SingStar reimagining you're saying, but I would play that if that comes out. I'll promise you that. But let's get to the third story of today's show, which is that Sony will be releasing a movie that's built in dreams. Which is kind of a crazy concept. They're partnering with Sony Pictures, I think, and they're going to be making an animated movie called The Winter's Journey, and it's going to be made inside of Dreams, which is the creation tool made by Media Molecule. Of course, they made Little Big Planet, and Dreams is their new, like, hey, instead of just kind of playing with the mechanics of Little Big Planet, how about we give you Dreams, which is essentially like a console-based light like game engine that you can actually build stuff. You can upload your own assets. Obviously, it's pretty expensive to be able to build something like a full animated movie. But this kind of really came out of left field for me. I never expected someone to do something like this within Dreams. But when you think about it, it's like this is totally possible, right?
This is insane. Dreams is the most underrated thing on the PlayStation because it is outrageous just how creative some people can get and like how useful of a tool that this is. And like it seems like a wild thing to do, but at the same time it's not surprising because like obviously the infrastructure is there. So this is super cool. And I think that like dreams is just like such a thing that so many people are sleeping on. But like I'm definitely gonna watch it. Like this is legit. And I think they have like a few actors that are not like totally unknown either that are gonna be like acting and participating in
Oh,
this.
really? I hadn't seen anything about who's in it. I
Yeah,
just
Jason Isaacs, the guy who plays Lucius Malfoy in Harry Potter, is apparently involved in this movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like it's not just a small thing.
That's interesting. Do you know anything about what A Winter's Journey is? Like what is this
Um,
franchise? Like they obviously bought this from whoever owned the rights previously.
yeah, I'm not sure. A Winter's Journey. I wish I would
Oh,
have
I
looked at
got it up here.
this ahead of time.
An itinerant lovelorn poet is banished from society and undertakes a hazardous walk across the mountains, ice, and snow, a journey which will bring either death or new life, based on a classic novel by Franz Schubert or something like that. Interesting.
It's
Okay.
Polish, I believe, is where
Yeah,
the source material comes from. But yeah, this seems really cool. I mean, I'm definitely gonna watch it. Like, there's a lot of Sony like movies coming out, or at least like
I know.
on the
Yeah.
horizon, and like this genuinely like might be the one I'm interested in most for
It's
whatever
definitely the
weird
most
reason.
unique.
It's just yeah,
This
it's
is
creative.
definitely got me interested more than the Uncharted movie, I would almost say. Like I know the Uncharted movie is probably going to
Yeah,
be a fun, like, popcorn action kind of watch Tom Holland do some cool acrobatics and stuff, but in terms of like you can almost envision what that movie's going to be, right? Like I can envision
yes,
what that kind of looks like. Whereas with this, it's like what will this be? How good will it look? Cuz I mean, I've looked at some stuff in Dreams on the YouTube and whatever, and like some of it is extremely impressive what people are able to make. So, I
hmm
mean, especially if this is being funded by Sony Pictures, like I would imagine this will be a pretty high quality animation.
yeah. Well, like the it's interesting too. It says it's gonna be like partially animated and partially like captured on
Hmm.
like partially filmed. So like I don't know exactly like what kind of hybrid it's gonna be. Like there isn't like a trailer or anything you can watch, but there's some pictures out there and it looks very like watercolor painted. And so I don't know if that's just like a concept art or if that's gonna denote what the style of the movie is gonna look like. But definitely, like you said, this is it's piqued my interest a lot more than even like the Uncharted. So I think Last of Us stuff is still really high up there on my like anticipation list. But this might be actually the top of it.
Well,
So
we should watch it for sure. And I also think that we
we
should
will,
take advantage and we should pick up Dreams at some point because we've had enough
we
stories
really
come by
should.
on the show that have been like, hey, this cool thing's happening in Dreams. Like, do you remember that Sonic Adventure 2 battle clone game that was
Yes.
kind of made in Dreams? And like, man, that was good. Like, I don't think I would ever be the person to sit and make something within Dreams, but if
Yeah.
I was able to sit down every couple weeks and just be like, hey, I wonder I'm going to sit through like for an hour and just flick through what people are making. Like, I bet you there's so much cool shit on there that we just have no idea even exists.
Absolutely, 100%. And like, I don't think it's very expensive either. I think Dreams like goes on sale for like 10 or 15
Yeah,
dollars
yeah,
from time to time. Like
yeah.
it's nothing to pick that up.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I pledge right now,
Okay.
here and now, listeners. I'm
All
gonna
right,
pick it
we'll
up.
do it.
I'm
All
gonna do it.
right, we'll add on to our 2022 goal of playing Disco Elysium. We will also
Yeah.
check out some cool Dream stuff.
Okay,
Deal.
it's a deal. Okay. Well, speaking of buying games, Kate, we got to move on to story number 4, which is we have the PlayStation sales charts for 2021 of the best-selling digital downloads on PlayStation for the year. So this is always exciting to look at. We always like going over the sales numbers, and especially, I mean, usually it's for a month, but when it's for the entire year, I think that's even more interesting to look at. So yeah, keep in mind that these are just downloadable games, though. So obviously no physical sales there. But in terms of PS5, I'll go through maybe I'll read the top 10 out really quick, and then there's a list of 20, that's a lot. And we're going through the US and Canada sales. So top 10 in order of 1 to 10 are NBA 2K22, Call of Duty Vanguard, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, Madden NFL 22, Battlefield 2042, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, MLB The Show 21, Resident Evil Village, and number 10 is Far Cry 6. And then it goes on with the rest of the list there. It includes, you know what? I'll just go through it. It's more fun to talk that way. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, FIFA 22, Among Us, Mortal Kombat 11, NBA 2K21, the next generation, It Takes Two, FIFA 21, Deathloop, Returnal, and finally number 20, Kena Bridge of Spirits. So it's an interesting mix. It's like, you know, a lot of the usual multiplayer stuff, a lot of the sports stuff, and then, hey, sometimes people like to play Miles Morales or Resident Evil or you know, Kena's. So it's a good representation, I think.
My favorite is on the EU side because they break it down US, Canada, and then there's a European one, and it goes FIFA. Like first came FIFA 2022, Call of Duty Vanguard, and then FIFA 2021.
Crazy, right?
Like it's amazing, just kind of the cultural difference. But yeah, whenever we look at these lists, it's always just like sports games, which is crazy because like I know you play the NHL games. Other than that, I don't know a single person that plays sports games, but it's just like nice to get reminded that like, holy shit, those games sell like absolutely. Like they're just ridiculous.
They are. And even something like Battlefield 42, it's like, or 2042, like that game critically, like for those of us that kind of follow the industry, is like, that game didn't really do very well, you know, but it doesn't mean it's still been number 5 on the year in terms of sales. Like there's such a mass market for all of these things.
Well, we have It Takes Two, like Game of the Year award winner at number 16. And then my personal Game of the Year winner, number 19, like Returnal just squeaked on. And yeah, it's definitely a lot more niche, but like even Deathloop's at 18. And that was that game that like everybody thought was just going to take Game Awards by storm because it was like the hottest thing by the end of the year.
Yeah,
and we got a shout out, number 13, Among Us. Like, good work, Among Us.
Yeah,
you're still holding on.
Can you believe such a small little Flash style thing has taken the world over as much as it has? Like, in terms of those kind of like that game, Fall Guys, all those kind of things. Like, Among Us is still the consensus leader really among those type of party hangout games. Like, see what I did there?
It just goes to show it's all about creativity and experience you can create for a player and not how much AAA money you throw into something. But if you're a AAA sports game that comes out every year, asterisk, you do beat that.
It's true. It's true. I want to shout out Spider-Man Miles Morales for still maintaining it third spot. I really loved that game when it came out back when it was the first thing I played on the PS5. And I think it kind of speaks to like the slow drip feed of the consoles getting out there for people because a lot of people are still waiting to play those type of things like that. And I'm sure Ratchet and Clank, same thing. And Resident Evil, it's like, I'm going to wait and buy these when I get my console. And so as people get them, they continue to be purchased throughout the year. And I think that they'll probably maintain their spot on the list, at least until we get like God of War and Horizon and maybe some other single player stuff that takes them down a little bit.
Yeah, we've talked before definitely about kind of 2021 being sort of like a slower or quieter year. And 2022 is just, there's so many big things set to come out. Like it's going to be quite different, I think. But I mean, like Madden and like, you know, what's crazy is Minecraft's not on here. This is the first year that Minecraft.
Well, you know what though? Let's get down to the PS4 sales because that was only on PS5. Now, is Minecraft there? It is. Yes, it is. So here we go. The top 20 selling PS4 games. We'll go over these ones just to compare. Again, for the US and Canada. Number 1, GTA 5. Number 2, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Number 3, Minecraft. Number 4, NBA 2K22. Number 5, Call of Duty Vanguard. 6, Madden 22, 7, NBA 2K21, number 8, Red Dead Redemption 2, number 9, MLB The Show 21, number 10, Mortal Kombat 11, and then the following 10 are Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Spider-Man Miles Morales PS4 version, FIFA 22, The Forest, Need for Speed Heat, UFC 4, Ark Survival Evolved, Gang Beasts, Rust Console Edition, and number 20, Kate, number 20, Naruto to Boruto, Shinobi Striker. Would anyone have ever thought that the 20th best-selling PS4 game of the year would be that?
I wouldn't. I didn't put money on it personally, but in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense.
Love it. It's interesting how the lists change, right? Like Minecraft not being on the PS5 list, definitely. Like, there's no way that Kenna would have made it on number 20 if Minecraft was on PS5. Like, it would instantly be near the top. And it's funny, like once those PS5 versions come out, how you can expect the list might change a bit.
Yeah, but it is always really fun to look back. I mean, like it's kind of one of those things like, yeah, you can sort of guess most of them because it's just the same thing every year. But you see a couple big games show up and like, yeah, good work, Naruto.
Good work.
You earned that one.
What is The Forest? I've
I
never
think
heard of
that's
that.
like a survive. It's one of those like kind of spooky survival games. I think like one of those
Hmm.
resource management. It's not new, I don't think. 2014. So I don't know. Maybe it just came to PlayStation or something.
Yeah, it could be. What
But
you
yeah, it's
know?
one of those like scavenging kind of like you're on a island and you've got to survive
Mm,
and shit's
okay.
scary and dark and yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, if you want to check out further sales numbers, you can go to the PlayStation blog, which is just where I'm reading this from. They also list PSVR games. Beat Saber's number one, no surprise there. And
Beat Saber.
free to play games, of course, Fortnite and Warzone and Rocket League and all the usual suspects there as well. So check those out if you're interested. It is cool, especially comparing like the EU and the North American sales for
Yeah.
sure. It's kind of interesting to highlight. But let's move on to our next little bit of news, Kate. And now we're going to transition over into the out of town news, which is non-PlayStation related. Although this one kind of is, because this is industry shaking news. And instead of listing a few different stories from, different companies here and there around the industry, we're just going to leave this whole section of the podcast to talk about the fact that Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, which is absolutely ridiculous to say. I mean, everyone was kind of like surprised by the Bethesda acquisition, which was nowhere near the size of this. Like this was almost, I think, $68 million. Like it's or
Yeah,
$68 billion.
it's a
Sorry,
billion. Yeah, that
68
is a
billion.
very big difference. It
Yeah,
is
sure.
68.7, so you can round that up. 69 nice $billion.
Nice billion dollars.
Nice.
It's just
Yeah,
ridiculous. Like
that
that
is
amount of money. And
wild.
yeah, I mean, I don't even know where you want to start with this, like where you want to unpack it from. Obviously, I mean, in terms of how it might affect PlayStation would be the lens we could go through. But Activision's games, I mean, they own a lot of different properties, and the main ones here like Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, Call of Duty, Candy Crush.
Candy Crush.
There's potential that any and all of those could be Xbox exclusive within the next few years, and I mean, not all of those are on PlayStation, but every single one of those in different landscapes is a huge game in its own marketplace.
They own Toys for Bob as well, who's the makers of like the Crash and
Yeah,
Spyro remakes,
yeah,
which are like originally PlayStation IPs, which is kind of interesting.
it is. They've officially changed teams.
Yeah. Or at
But
least like, yeah, assuming that they would continue to make things. But yeah, those ones are huge too, even like StarCraft and Heroes of the Storm. Not that I
yeah,
play on PlayStation, but yeah, it is certainly a massive move, and there's upsides to it for sure. I know Blizzard and Activision have been absolutely like drowning for the last few years, so maybe this is a good trajectory for them. Microsoft and Phil Spencer seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, so
I
he can
hope
kind of
so.
whip them
I
into
hope
shape a
so.
little bit.
Just
Is
all
the
those
dream.
horrible stories of like of the workplace culture and all that stuff. Like you gotta hope that the main thing that comes out of this is just, hey, Xbox is. I mean, I think they've had a lot of a few slip ups in the past too, but by all things considered, they seem to be one of the better companies to work for now in terms of this industry. So hopefully they can extend that on to Activision now and Blizzard to hopefully send those companies back on the right path, right, and get back to making beloved games rather than just COD and and like other stuff like that.
Well, and they have such like big franchises. Like when was the last like StarCraft has not really had tons of support in terms of like a new game, right? But it's a massive IP, and there's just a lot of like money that could really get pumped into some of these like really influential long running franchises that haven't really seen too much recently, or just been kind of sequential. Like nobody's really claiming that Call of Duty is the best game ever made, but people are still buying them. So
Yeah.
if they can get a little bit more support, that would be nice.
Yeah, but that's just it.
So
And it's interesting too, like, will these games come to Game Pass then? Like you talk about World of Warcraft and especially on the PC side, it's like Game Pass is not quite as strong on the PC as it is on console. But what if all of a sudden your Game Pass subscription was like your WoW subscription as well? And if you have Game Pass, you just don't have to pay for that monthly WoW fee or your monthly what other game? Some other one has a fee as well. Like I know WoW does. Maybe they have another MMO that has the same thing. But regardless, it's just like it's interesting that they could kind of merge those together.
Yeah, and that would be like wild. I mean, that would change things a lot, right? I think it is unrealistic to assume that there won't be games that will be exclusive, right? Like you don't spend 69 nice billion dollars and not try to like pocket some of that back, right? Like they have said that this acquisition is very much catered towards Game Pass, and they're going to put as many of the old and new titles as possible onto Game Pass, which is kind of vague.
Yeah,
And non-committal, but at the same time, it is like emphasizing that as a structure. And I think like WoW is really interesting too because yeah, with the subscription, maybe that's a tier of Game Pass now, right? Like maybe you pay $5 extra a month to include WoW in your Game Pass, and that gets a whole bunch of people who don't play into it, and that also means that all the WoW players are like, I might as well pay and get Game Pass as well because why not? And then they check that out, and then that's more people playing Halo now and whatever
exactly.
else. So it
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
a good market decision. I know that they've said that they the next Call of Duty and everything that's already set to be on PlayStation will remain. They're not burning those bridges, but like this installment, sure, but in the next couple of installments, like there's nothing to say that they won't do it. And you'd like to think with certain games that perhaps it is in their interest as well to say they'll come to PlayStation, maybe with the caveat it has to be cross-platform. But I think a lot of these, yeah, are definitely going to be PC, Xbox only,
Hmm. Hmm.
which as a consumer kind of sucks for some people, especially you've been playing every installation of Call of Duty for the last 10 years and you're a super big PlayStation fan and you've always enjoyed that and now like whoopsies better go get a nice PC. But
Yeah. It's gonna be fascinating to see how it shakes out. I know I've got another article here from Polygon. They were talking to Phil Spencer a few days after the acquisition, and apparently the quote is they're going to honor all existing agreements, and that
yeah,
he quote wants to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation.
okay,
And I think the acquisition is scheduled to actually. There's a lot of like legality and
yeah,
financial stuff, and I think that once the deal is closed, as long as there's no speed bumps, it'll be closing in June of 2023. So that would be kind of the end date of when we might be guaranteed to have the current Call of Duty stuff on PlayStation. Whether or not it goes away, I mean, who's really to say? You could argue it both ways. Like for sure, like you're not wrong. Like you buy if you're going to spend 69 nice billion dollars to buy these franchises, and Call of Duty is literally the most lucrative gaming franchise on the planet. Like it would make a lot of sense to have it on your console exclusively, right, or your platform. But at the same time, you could argue too, and someone would have to crunch the numbers of like, well, it could be free over here, and you could still sell it for $80 on PlayStation if people want to pay for it,
yeah,
and then they can get it for free on Xbox. It just makes your platform look better, and you're still getting probably like hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars from the
yeah.
PlayStation audience too.
That's not a bad argument as well, right? You kind of get to double dip. It's like, all right, a Game Pass is what, like 10, $15 a month? Like, awesome. Have Call of Duty, have Overwatch, have Diablo, play Warcraft, StarCraft, like fucking Candy Crush. Like, you know how many millions
Exactly.
of people play Candy Crush? Like, all right, that's all here. Sure, yeah, $90, a little bit less attractive if you want to buy it on PlayStation. So
Totally.
why not take advantage of that? Maybe it's better to have exclusivity. I don't know. But there's certainly an argument and a possibility of either of those things being true, but
Yeah, I've heard a
it'll
lot of people
definitely be
saying.
interesting.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying like I think what I've heard most is like they think Warzone will be stay like for everywhere because it's just a free to play battle royale, and then if you want to
Mhm,
get into like the specific Call of Duty campaigns and like more of the bespoke little pieces of the franchise, like that might be what
mhm.
moves to Xbox exclusive, and I could see that being reality too. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's just all
Well, this
speculation, right?
this to me just further promotes my absolute privilege life of saying have a really nice PC and a PS5. And that is the ultimate setup. But
That's what you got.
unfortunately that's obviously not realistic for everybody. And it's more money and having it all in one place is certainly what's ideal.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's just one of those things. It's a business first, and unfortunately, that's the world we live in. I just really hope that this doesn't create like so much back and forth with like Sony now has to buy 6 studios, and then Microsoft has to buy 3 more studios, and
I
Nintendo's sipping
know.
mojitos on the beach because they don't care. They're putting out Mario forever.
They don't care. They're like,
Like,
here's another Mario game. Here's Kirby
yeah,
again. Here
here's
he
Kirby
is.
again. Who gives a shit? Whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
it's that's what the next thing I think the second part of this
yeah,
conversation we need to have is like, does PlayStation need to do something to kind of tip the scale back, or is this just this is just something that happened and they're going to continue to stay the course? Because I think PlayStation, as much as it's like a competitor of Xbox, they're also similar to Nintendo in a lot of ways of like they prioritize a lot of their first party stuff. Like Nintendo really focuses on Mario and Kirby and
Mhm.
Pokemon and all those. Like PlayStation does the same thing. They're very focused on their first
Yeah.
party IP as well. And in a way that Xbox isn't. And the reason I think they're all a competitor is because they're the ones that have a console of an equal or equal power to play the third party stuff as
Mhm.
well. But I mean I wonder, does the future look kind of like where Xbox is, where you just kind of play the general sphere of gaming stuff, and then PlayStation and Nintendo are kind of like for the platform enthusiasts of like what those specifically have. It's interesting.
I mean, there's a world in that where that exists, right? Because yeah, PlayStation's bought a lot of stuff, but it's at least as far as my recollection goes, it's stuff that's pre-associated with them.
Well, they've bought
And
individual development studios, right? But Microsoft
yeah,
has been buying like Activision is a giant publisher
yeah,
with like tons of studios underneath them. Like when PlayStation bought Insomniac a few years ago, that's a singular developer. It's not, it'd be like
right.
Microsoft buying Toys for Bob, not Activision.
hmm
So it's like a
Right.
whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's crazy. Like, yeah, like you said, we thought Bethesda was a big deal, and turns out that was just like the dip your toe in the water of,
Mm-hmm.
shall we buy
It's
more
crazy.
stuff? And
Well, I mean,
ugh,
the PlayStation Now, like the only real, if they wanted to, punch back or like make a big swing, like whatever that would be, it would be something like buying EA or like buying Sega or Konami or like one of these companies
mhm,
that's like one of the few remaining kind of big publishers that people know, and I just don't know if that's gonna happen. Like it very well might, I guess, but it just kind of seems, it would seem desperate, wouldn't it? Like if they came out in 6 months and
yeah,
like bought EA, that would be like, well, you're only doing that because Xbox did their thing.
yeah.
And
It
yeah.
doesn't seem their style. I think that what makes sense for Sony, and what seems more like their business method, seems like just keep gathering first party studios and keep
Hmm.
putting out like God of War and Last of Us and whatever Insomniac's doing, and like obviously it doesn't have to be that same franchise every time, but those developers will keep making stuff to that quality for Sony to have these big first party titles, and then play nice, like stop being stingy on whether or not there's like cross platform play for certain games. Play super nice, be nice to Microsoft, and just like ask for Call of, like, send them a nice gift basket, ask for Call of Duty, like put some muffins in there and like make some deals, because like you can survive with some of the AAA stuff and your own stuff. That's
Yeah.
probably good enough, right? Like that'll do it. There's big fans, and as long as there's the quality of games coming out, like people will buy a PlayStation for Ragnarok, right?
Oh yeah, of course. And I think you can still easily argue, well, not maybe not easily anymore, but I think overall a lot of people would still say PlayStation has the better exclusive lineup, even despite Microsoft buying Bethesda and Activision, because really Activision's biggest thing right now, it is COD and it is
hmm
Overwatch and WoW, but not everyone on Xbox is all of a sudden going to become a WoW player just because Microsoft now owns it. Like that's a very specific PC audience kind of thing, and I think PlayStation still has like would be considered to be the best first party developer unless you're a big Nintendo fan and kind of like that type of stuff. So it just depends if they can continue put out this high quality of first party stuff. I think if we see like, oh, the next God of War Ragnarok wasn't quite as good as we thought, and you know Horizon 2 was maybe better than the first one, but maybe not. Like if these games kind of slip in quality or something, then I think it might be a bit of trouble for to rely on that strategy.
And I think too they're gonna depend very much heavily on what their upcoming, like their subscription service is like,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
how it can compete with Game Pass. Because the selfish thing I see from this is oh my god, I hope Game Pass is now good on PC, because they've got a lot of like Bethesda, or not Bethesda, sorry, Blizzard and Activision stuff that's like very PC focused, right? Like almost all of Blizzard stuff is PC first. Like Overwatch is on console, and
Yeah, Diablo.
like Call of Duty is a big console thing as well, and yeah, Diablo. But like first and foremost, like StarCraft and Warcraft and like a lot of that is PC stuff. And so if that comes to Game Pass, and Game Pass PC kind of starts to be as quality as the console or the dual package, then all of a sudden like, okay, $12 a month is appealing for
Man,
me.
it's appealing now. I gotta tell you, there's so
Yeah.
much on there. Oh my god. I will never not subscribe to Game Pass. I'll tell you what. I don't know. Like, is there a future where Game Pass ever does come to PlayStation? Is
I don't
interesting.
think
I don't
so.
think so either. But
I don't
like
think so. I think that's their big money card, right? Like you said, you can put Call of Duty on PlayStation for $90, but the fact that it's still on Game Pass is part of your subscription that you want anyway. Like
mhm,
that is enough to purchase that console over a PlayStation console for a lot of people, and
it's
like they're
true.
not giving that up.
Interesting. I don't know, because I think the Microsoft's number one thing is like we just want the most people to subscribe to Game Pass. We don't care if you do it on your
Yeah,
PC. We don't care if you do it on your xCloud and you just play on your phone. We don't care if you buy a Series X, a Series S. We don't care if you have an Xbox One. Like, what's the difference if you have a Game Pass app on your PS5? They're still making money off you every single month, even if you buy a PS5 that way. I mean,
that's.
you're still
I
able to
mean,
buy things through there. I don't know.
you're not wrong, but at the same time,
It just
what
seems
if you
wrong,
paid
right?
$400 for the console and then bought the subscription? You're still saving money in the long run. I don't know. It seems like logistically, like there's a lot going on. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I
there
don't know,
must
maybe
be.
some business analysts got to get in here, but Microsoft clearly knows what they're doing if they have $69 nice million to throw around on something.
They're just gonna have to
So,
get a big room, and they're gonna put like all the different Xbox people. Matt Booty will be there, Phil Spencer will be there, and they're all just gonna pull out their calculators and sit there and just do math all day and figure out exactly what the best way to make the money on Game Pass is. Will it come to PS5? I don't know. We'll
right.
talk to them when they
Yeah.
come out.
Phil Spencer's got the like every there's like those two kinds of morality he's got talked about. It's like the greatest possible good, like save the highest amount of people as possible, or like not even one person can be sacrificed. And Phil Spencer's got that going on with like Xbox Game Pass. It's like not even one person can't be like exempt from Game Pass. Like he is on an absolute mission, but at the same time, that's a nice deal.
I know, man. It's gonna be interesting. I wonder if they're gonna buy anyone else. That's the
Yeah.
next part too. It's like, are they done?
Well,
I
I
don't think
mean,
they're done.
why stop there? Why stop when you
I think
can?
all of a sudden we're gonna have like everything will be just on a Game Pass subscription. It'll be like all the videos, all the TV, all the
Right?
everything.
He's like the Phantom Thieves. Like every game studio now is just waiting for his calling card to show up, and they're like, "Oh, we're
They're
coming to
like, oh,
Game
okay, all
Pass."
right.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, big news though. I mean, wow. I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
we've talked quite a bit about it. I mean, there's been so much discussion about this online. I'm sure
Yeah.
this is not the first place that our listeners are hearing about this, but obviously
No.
we needed to give our take on. I mean, how can you not? How can you have a gaming podcast and not talk about this? This is outrageous and crazy, and we'll see what happens in the future. I'm sure the next couple of years are going to be a big change of like what the gaming landscape looks like. Like will the consoles look the same in the next 5 years? Will Game Pass be everywhere? Will PlayStation have an answer to Game Pass? Will they need one? What will, like there's just so many questions, and I'm excited to see what happens as someone with a Game Pass and a PlayStation.
Right. Nice.
So
Yeah.
that's good. Kate, we're moving towards the end of the show here, but we do have one more story to get to, which is, of course, we'd like to end off the show with a fun little interesting story or something kind of out of the blue or random to end the show. And this one is more so like, it's a cool story, actually. Well, it's sad, but it's kind of cool. It's that apparently there was a version of Metroid, Super Metroid, being unlockable in Metroid Prime back on the GameCube. And this was programmed in by one of the developers who had added it in as a big fan of the game. And eventually, I guess it was taken out because he was running it on an emulator that was not official. And so Nintendo didn't want to have like an unapproved program running in their game. But what a cool little Easter egg that was. And how interesting would that have been to be able to play Super Metroid on Metroid
That
Prime?
That would have been so fun. And I feel like this is the most Nintendo thing ever to be like, oh, emulator in our game? No, shut down. Like, that is so. Nintendo can be a little bit, like, I guess proprietary is maybe the right word, or
Mm-hmm.
cautious, however you want to, whatever kind of negative and or positive connotation you want to give it. But they're definitely delicate when it comes to where their games can be found and played. And so I'm not shocked by this in the slightest. But good on the developer that tried to sneak that in, because that would have been such a cool little Easter egg.
It would have been really cool. I mean, Super Metroid, people always rank it on. I mean, this is the IGN article I'm reading here, and they have it ranked number 5 on their list of the top 100 games of all time. Like, I
Right,
like
but in
Super
that list,
Metroid. I
like,
mean, I don't think it deserves to be number 5. I don't think it
well,
deserves
yeah,
to
but
maybe be,
on those
you
lists,
know.
there's nothing that's come out in the last 10
I
years,
know, it's
so
so
like,
outrageous.
yeah,
It's so
they're a
outrageous.
little outdated.
But I mean,
Perhaps.
at least Super Mario World isn't number 1 anymore. We can
Right.
thank that at least. But I mean, regardless, Super Metroid still is a good game. Like, I played it
Yeah,
a couple of years ago, and I
absolutely.
mean, it's a fun Metroidvania, you know, and having something like that, like Nintendo has so many cool classics that they could be doing stuff like this with
And every
all
now
the
and again
time.
they do, like, they had, like, I remember in the, like, GameCube Animal Crossing, which would have
Hmm.
been around the same time as Metroid Prime,
Yeah,
had,
right.
like, those emulators you could get, or those little gaming stations you could get for your house, and you actually did get to play, like, some old games, like, I think they had, like, Pitfall maybe and, like, that kind of
Yeah,
style,
they had Excite Bike, I
and
think, on there.
Fight Bike, yeah, and it was super exciting, so, like, it's a shame that, however they got those games in clearly wasn't the same emulator that Super Metroid was running
That's
on.
another question I have here is like, why does the Nintendo development team not have like an official emulation program they could use for this? They've clearly, like you said, they clearly have them because they did it in Animal Crossing, and they've done it, I'm sure, in other examples too. So the fact that this guy couldn't just, I'm just gonna grab the official Super Nintendo emulator off the shelf and like put it in, for
Right,
better lack of a
right.
better term, and like put it in the game, like it's just outrageous. Did he go to like coolroms.com and download this and like
Yeah, he's on Cool ROMs.
like
That
Emu
is so
Paradise? Is
good.
that where he went? I don't know. Like,
It would probably be easier for him to go there than to officially obtain it,
it's
absolutely.
just, this is the
Um,
kind of thing.
but
I don't
yeah,
know.
this is so fun. This reminds me of last week, or I guess last episode, it would have been 2 weeks ago now. We had that Page Boy thing, and this just is like another one of those like Nintendo great ideas, and we're finding out so much later that you just got rid of them. And like I just want to see the treasure trove of like things Nintendo threw away that would have been
Mm-hmm.
so cool.
Yeah, that would be, that would be a list I actually don't think I want to see because it would just probably make me so upset. Like,
Yeah,
why is Metroid Prime 4 getting rebooted for so long? Why have they not finished that
right?
game yet? I mean,
You know
take your
what's
time,
sitting on the
obviously.
top of that
But
pile of like discarded
Pikmin 4, Pikmin
Nintendo
4,
things? Pikmin 4 and like the
F-Zero.
Waluigi spin-off game.
What genre of game do you believe the Waluigi spin-off game would be?
um, Originally I think like it's not gonna be a micro game. That's the warrior thing. I think Waluigi would be a visual novel.
That's what I was gonna say too.
Yes.
I don't know why. It's just something about Nintendo making a visual novel too when their characters literally have like nothing
Waluigi
to
in
say.
high school. Waluigi in high school. It'd be a drama.
It'd be like how he
Who's
originally was
Waluigi
short and
gonna
felt
date?
self-conscious and then became incredibly tall and good at tennis.
Good at tennis, yeah, that's right. He joins the school soccer team and crotch chops a few times, and you got like 3 dating options. Oh.
Yeah, none of which are like real characters. Oh my god. All right, well, that's the news for this week, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. I know it was a bit of a hectic episode. We had a lot to cram in. Lot of big. That might be the biggest news episode we've had, really, aside from like I guess PSVR 2 a couple weeks ago was a pretty big one, but needless to say, we're heading into big news season for games now that we're past Christmas and everything. So we'll definitely be having some more good episodes of the Circles and Squares News Report. Again, thank you all for joining us. If you like the show, you can head over and support us wherever you're watching, whether that's a YouTube subscription or a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. We just appreciate your support. Even just sharing it with a friend or something to get the good word out and help us grow the show is always a great thing. And with that, we will see you next week for the next episode of the Circles and Squares podcast. Where what are we going to be talking about, Kate? What are we discussing on that one?
It's gonna be some good stuff. We
I'm going to be
promise.
upgrading my Persona 5 Strikers endeavor. I'm going to
Okay.
be updating that.
I've been playing a new game called Warm Snow, and I'm saying that with a question mark because I think that's the name of it. I call it something else as a fun pet name, but it's basically like Chinese Hades.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you kind of marinate on that a little bit. It is super cool.
Cool. Okay. Well, look forward to that, and we'll see you all in 1 week's time. Bye.